Welcome back to the Disrupt Education Podcast. Allie Dahl, Peter Hostrasser. Allie, what's up? How you doing?
I'm good. We're in like this flow state
Yeah,
with our most recent guest, Jason Walkie. Uh, you just meet people, when you podcast and you just like really find just synergy and flow. And that was what we experienced with Jason from rural Indiana.
right.
Okay. So I wanna say to our listeners, like there's a renaissance, I think, coming for rural school districts.
Yeah.
I I'm like the agility that they have, and the freedom they have to it's like literally the space they physically have is to their benefit.
Hmm.
And I just think, man, if you're listening to this and you have the ability to potentially move or work with or be in a more rural area, I think you're going to find disrupting education is going to be so much easier.
Yeah.
The work that they're doing at his school is incredible. If you didn't listen to last week's episode and you're like, what are you talking about right now? Stop, pause this one, and go back. Like, what were your like where's your head right now? Because you do this type of work, and everything that Jason shared, I'm sure you're just like, oh, I wonder if I could do that. I wonder if
Hmm.
my district, like if you're in this work, like it was so exciting to hear someone who's like, oh yeah, like he doesn't even think he's ahead of the curve, I don't think, and he is.
Yeah, right. Well, I think that's interesting because look, there is no secret that, rural districts are struggling to get educators, to get, staffed, and those types of things. However, I am a firm believer, and I can definitely tell you that Jason Welke is, um, that in times of like challenge, there is opportunity. And I get it. Like it's a private school, and everybody will try to write that off and everything. However, I really think there's so much opportunity, like you said, to change some things up. Hey, what if we did this? Because who's going to fight you because you don't have enough staff, or maybe you don't have enough. The funding's always a challenge. Community sometimes is struggling. That's I go all the way back to, I think it was my 100th episode with Trace Pickering in Iowa Big. Look, there was a town in Iowa that flooded and they needed to rebuild, right? And that's where those ideas came out of. So I think that what you're saying there about the agility of rural area schools is, it's kind of an uncovered diamond that a lot of people might not have heard of yet. Or if you're in a I grew up in a rural district, like, and there are a lot of different things that you can do if you have the right admin. And I think that's a big piece. I think when your back's against the wall, you got two things you can do. You can either just die on the wall, or you can try to come up with creative ideas to pull yourself off the wall, right? And I think this is a very good case of actually creating something that is going to make a difference, and also it can be done in a district that is small, right?
I so my family lives in rural Wisconsin, probably so, like even smaller than what Jason's community is. I mean,
Hmm.
like a town of less than 400. And I am becoming more and more convinced that if I was to go back to education and I wanted to disrupt it, the real opportunity is in smaller school districts because
Hmm.
I subbed at these. It wasn't just Birchwood, Wisconsin. It was also in Rice Lake, Wisconsin, and then Spooner, Wisconsin. All these cute little towns. And I will tell you, oh man, some of the programming that they have available to them, and they're public schools, but their size is their strength. And I think if you're an educator listening to this and you're like, I don't feel like, I mean, I'm at this big school district. I can't do any kind of change. I would have, before doing this podcast, I would have never considered a rural school district as a place to innovate. Like,
Hmm.
that was my own blind spot. But I'm seeing if you do have the right community support and the right admin in place, the sky is the limit. I really see a renaissance and an opportunity here. Like, one, if there are these hidden gems of these amazing programs in these rural areas, and we're just beginning to uncover them. Like, Jason is just
Yeah.
one. I know Birchwood, like, they have a pretty innovative, it's kind of it's similar to an internship, work-based learning. It's completely separate from the school. It's like its own school within a school.
Hmm.
And they have like graduating classes of like 15 students, and then this new program has like five, right? Like, they have the ability to design whatever they want. And if you're like, one, looking to like just move to a different school district, maybe put rule like as ways, places you may not have thought, like, I wonder if they have a really good school system. They might. They probably do. And then secondly, if you're an educator and you're like feeling stuck, man, rural school districts, not only some of them are probably struggling to hire good people, but if you are and you're like, I really want to change and revolutionize and start something from scratch, I think you have so much untapped potential to
Hmm.
do it in a a rural a rural area.
Yeah.
I think those communities are hungry. I mean, I think back to, I was lucky to meet Christy Valesky in person,
Hmm.
and she's from Iowa, and she has talked about how like these smaller communities, to get people to stay, have to kind of innovate and
Yeah.
come up with unique opportunities for the community and the school to partner together.
Yeah.
It's coming. Like, this wave is coming, and
Hmm.
it's refreshing to hear Jason, for how many hats he wears, did not seem stressed at all.
No. Well,
I was more stressed.
he's a
Like,
professional golfer who can take like really bad shots and just say, whatever, I'm going to go on to the next. No, but yeah, and to your point, I think there was something that he said right off the bat in the conversation was, in his path, into education. This is his, I believe it was his second school because the first one, he wanted to do this program, and it just wasn't fitting. It just something that wasn't a priority, whatever it is, it just didn't work. And no disrespect, but guess what he did? He found one that did, And so to your point, I think in order to recruit people, money's great, but culture kills it every time. Like you can knock it out of the park if you have an innovative culture and you're like, look, you want to build something, you can build it here. And or we have this and we believe in what you believe in. So I really, again, this goes back to the teacher being the free agent. I love the fact that he sought it out, right? Like I've done that, six different school districts. It's, over 23 years. It's not like six different districts in 2 weeks, that's a little, but you reach a point to where, you want to continue to create and do some different things. So I love that part of his story when he was talking about, okay, I just moved to a district that made it work, and then I improved upon it. There's a story in there for people who are struggling to get good educators, and that is to let's get some creative people and or whatever your culture is, but like put it out there, right? The other thing that I really liked when he was talking about, just helping kids. I mean, this guy's like just his he knows as an educator there was excitement, there was experience, and I talked about that before. But I think one of the things was, the connections of college prep and the internship and the workforce thing. I mean, we unpacked that a little bit in a lot of different ways, but what did you think about that? That I think that as a big school where I come from or where my kids went, it's very college prep, but it's college prep in a traditional way. and it's bigger, so it's kind of like a big organization. It's harder to, like you said, be flexible. And it bugs me, because I wanted my kids to have these kind of experiences. Um, yeah, I don't know. Unpack that a little bit. You asked a great question in the in the last podcast about, yeah, workplace skills versus college, which we know they're morphing, but yeah.
I was listening to this and I'm like, you're a college prep school,
Hmm.
but you literally have every single senior do an internship and you have community support by it. I was like, how? Because that's what I
Yeah.
would be if I'm listening to this, I've been like, if they don't ask this question, I'm tuning out. Like, because we're in some ways, their school is very traditional,
Yeah.
right? He talked about, he's like, "Well, the new model we're going through, Tuesday through Friday, we're going to have 7 classes, 50 minutes, that bell schedule. That's not disruptive to me. If you just listen to that segment of the podcast and then
Hmm.
you're like, oh, wait, but Mondays, they're basically going to do internship and work-based learning now. And then they create a space where seniors get exposed every day for a semester to an internship, and the parents and the community are behind it, and right, like, so, but they promote college. So like, if your school is a college based preparatory school, super traditional, you can't use that as a shield. I feel like that wall, he basically was like, no, like, we just tie it into the mission. Like, I think, when you have red tape or you have people saying, oh, but we can't do it because, our kids are college bound.
Hmm.
Yes, you can. And it's helpful. Like and then if we've talked to many people that say most people don't need to go to college. You have a neglected majority. So like, right, yes, they're a college prep school, and maybe that's the type of student that they are getting
Hmm.
that 30% of people that really should be going to college because that's who applies to their private school. But I think there's an opportunity down the road for not only Jason's school but other schools to be like, look, we're doing this because we want to open up pathways no matter where you want to go
Hmm.
post high school. Why college is some mythical standard of excellence is beyond you and I. Like, we're like so beyond that. But even if your school district is tied to that, you can still do this work.
Right.
That's what was so encouraging, because it was like, whoa, 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 whoa. You are working in what I would consider, if you look at just the name and the structure of the school, the mission of it, you would think this is a super traditional school. There's no way they're doing anything disruptive.
Hmm. Hmm.
Eh, because it doesn't matter. You can still disrupt even in a parochial school. I mean,
Yeah.
he opened up so many doors. I don't even think he realizes it, because it doesn't, it seems like, look, if he can do it in rural Indiana,
Yeah.
why can't you anywhere?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think along with that, one of the things that I really, we probably could have gone down the road a little bit deeper in when he was unpacking that Monday, right? The mission Monday that they have, right? It makes sense for interns, right? That makes sense. It makes sense for the juniors who are going into a fellowship kind of piece. But what we didn't really talk about, and I'm guessing this is where a lot of things come from, is you take a lot of the the complaints in a school, right? Within a school. And I'm talking to people outside of school probably don't hear these all the time, but like you're like, oh my gosh, this kid's going on like 3 field trips this week. They're losing out time or whatever, right? Or I don't know, the internship, obviously, then you have that. Or, there's a a special event for a club or whatever, and they have to leave school early or all this stuff, right? They just said, okay, well, what if we made a day for that? I mean, that's a simple solution. And is it going to work? I don't know. They're going to do it next year. We'll probably have Jason on again. Well, like that's where I go back to the initial thought of challenges in education are opportunities to improve, right?
Hmm.
And what we're trying to do within this series is to ultimately show you that if you have a challenge, come up with two solutions and try one of them, right?
Hmm.
It's these are people who are actually moving the needle, right, in the system. That's why we created this entire series. And I know we're kind of in the middle of it, but and we're probably repeating this over and over again. But this is what we want people to understand, right? Um, you can do it. You're in a system. Take one challenge that you heard. Just go sit in the lunchroom with other teachers for 5 minutes. You're gonna get challenges. You're gonna get them, right? Especially like at the end of a semester or close to the end of a 9 week period or whenever, right? Um, there are opportunities in there, and it's okay to grieve or to kind of vent. That's not a problem. And trust me, I think as educators or anybody needs that kind of camaraderie. But there comes a point where you just get tired of talking about doing something and you just do it. And that's what we're trying to inspire with the guests that we have here. Every single one of them are doing some amazing things. And guess what? They're still balancing their lives. I mean, they are. And yes, there are hard days, and you do have to put in the work. But it's all that mentality. And I really like you went to like, man, he seems not stressed out at all, you know. But I'm telling you, he's a golfer, like a great golfer, not like, somebody's
Okay,
going to,
so
I'm guaranteeing that guy never broke a club ever. Maybe. I don't know. I would break clubs every once in a while. So,
as someone who's not a golfer, I
yeah.
mean, I have a new appreciation for the calmness that golfing can exude. So maybe that's something that we should expose students to earlier, because apparently it really reduces stress and anxiety. I mean, as a teacher, I had more stress and anxiety, and I did not wear that many hats. I mean, it was self-imposed, of course, but I'm just saying, like, I think there's also something to be said about the fact that he had a whole career before teaching.
Hmm.
Like, whoa, think of the opportunity in that,
Yeah.
right? Like, if you're in a school right now and you have people that have gone and done, like, lived a whole life,
Hmm.
5, 10, 15, 20 years doing something different, and they want to come home,
Hmm.
make a place for them in your school district. Think of how much they can bring. I just think, wow, what an opportunity there. How disruptive is that? Let's start recruiting people from industry. I know for a fact that there were applicants, especially in the science field, of people who were in industry and they're like, I really want to give back. I really want to teach. And
Hmm.
they didn't have the teacher training. And so when it was more competitive to get into schools, like they wouldn't get hired.
Hmm.
But we can provide teacher training. Like school districts they can provide the training. You can't replace that expertise. And I think now we need to think of ways to bring in the experts to facilitate these types of programming. And that's how you're going to disrupt education. It's not going to be hiring somebody who went and got their bachelor's degree in education. They have no real world experience. Sorry, like
Hmm.
right? It's harder to disrupt. You're just going to keep getting the same thing. And now, if you are that person listening, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. You can get experience along the way. I'm just saying,
Right.
like, what a different way to think about disrupting education
Hmm.
if you're looking to hire differently or recruit differently. I wouldn't have even thought of that until listening to Jason's story. And I just think there's so many different ways to innovate, whatever level you're at. If you're an admin listening to this and you're like, wow, I bet there are people in my community that maybe would want to work in the school. He started on an emergency license.
Hmm. Right. Right.
You know what that is?
Yeah.
That means you He just came in, didn't have the experience, got training.
Yeah, we don't have enough. And you're right. This is something that, it's going to happen. And it'll be interesting because the creative, like I said, going back to it, when your back's against the wall and you need educators or whatever, think about this program that Jason is working with, all the educators in that community, right? Like you said, coming in and facilitating conversations and internships, and so they've seen it. They know what's happening. That's why I love programs like this. And yeah, there's so much to pull from this. We do have even more guests coming in. Very good guests as well. And I'm excited about that. But for this one, kind of what are your kind of final thoughts on being a senior internship coordinator, an AP US history teacher, an econ teacher, psychology teacher, student media, business, junior class moderator, and girls golf coach. And by the way, we didn't say this on the last one, but you can look him up. And if you're looking to move into that area, he is a real estate agent too.
I mean, you can do it all apparently.
Yeah.
And the thing is that I've learned in subbing in the rural areas is that because there's a couple educators in each of those communities that I mentioned that are kind of anchor people and they love what they do and you really just need a couple anchors or maybe just one depending on the size of your school district and it can just make such a big impact and that is powerful. You don't need a whole team and committees and whatever else. But I really want to end my final thoughts on something you said just in this episode about like, oh, we've probably said this, so many times before on the podcast. Hello. Okay. I I have to give credit to Dorian, and I do not remember her last name for the life of me right now, but she was my first year teacher coordinator at the school district that I worked for. And somebody asked her, like, don't you ever get bored of this work? You're giving this training, and she had to do it so many repetitions and everything. And she goes, or she'd been doing professional develop programming for the district for like 10 years. And sometimes it was like the same thing, right? And she had to do it for the elementary school teachers, the middle school teachers, the high school teachers, the admin, whatever. She's like, yeah, well, I don't actually get bored of it because maybe somebody didn't hear me the first time or the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, but maybe that eighth time is when it really sinks in and they start developing and making the changes that we know are there. They just weren't ready to hear it.
Hmm.
And I think the power of a podcast like this is that I get it. I listen to podcasts and sometimes like I'm doing other things and not listening to a segment. And then all of a sudden somebody will say something in a podcast. I'll be like, wait, what was that? Like I got to go back a little bit. And like all of a sudden I just heard something that moved the needle forward. I
Mhm.
think about even the types of conversations you and I have had and how they have evolved and grown. And if we were to go back, Peter, and like listen to the type of dialogue that you and I had, 2 years ago, we would be like, oh, we probably said some of the same things, but it's different.
Yeah.
Like we're hearing it differently now than we did 2 years ago. And so if you are listening to this podcast, whether you've been listening to us for a long time or this is your very first episode, you might not have got everything from this episode, and that's okay. We'll just say it again, maybe slightly worded differently, and it'll catch that time. And
Right.
so, no matter what you're listening to, I think even if something is repetitive, maybe you needed to hear it again because it hasn't sunk in yet. So that's my final thoughts for this one.
I like it. I think I've heard that final thought before, though. I'm just teasing. I love that. No, you're right. You're right. And what I really, just kind of round that out. Look, we're here. Filling your bucket is one of the last things, or the first things that Jason said in the podcast. Is going to be one of the last things in this podcast episode. Is just remember, man, like those points that one life that you change, and then do it again, and do it again. And we're just giving you all different kinds of ways to do that. whatever curriculum you're in, whatever situation you're in, and connect, reach out. LinkedIn right now is vibrant with educators. It used to be Twitter and or X. There's a lot of people still hanging around X here and there, but like LinkedIn is big, and then look for groups like Start Ed Up from if you're in Indiana, or you can take a look at Start Ed Up or just look up Don Wettrick as well. Those are a lot of people who are creating different areas, and you can just basically type in teacher groups or whatever, and they'll show up. Yeah, I. Yeah, I'm excited. I want to go to our next guest already. So, but we'll have to wait a week. So, but for Ali Dahl, I'm Peter Hostrasser. Look, 2025, we're lighting it up. Just basically burning down the traditional system and rebuilding an augmented learning system. Ooh, we'll unpack that too later. But again, for Ali Dahl, I'm Peter Hostrasser. Thanks for listening to the Disrupt Education podcast. Hey, check us out next week. We'll be back with another amazing guest. Bye, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us on this week's episode of the Disrupt Education podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe so you never miss an episode.
Are you ready to disrupt the educational arena you're a part of? For more ways to get involved in the work we do here at Disrupt Education, check us out at disrupteducation.co or find us on LinkedIn at Peter Hostrasser or Ali Privet.
Our mission here is to help facilitate and amplify changes in the educational system through local initiatives and help you scale them into community movements. Our building network of disruptors in education are working to move beyond scores and grades as the only measure for student learning. If your school district, college, campus, or organization is looking for facilitators of this work, reach out on our website or social media.
And if you have any thoughts or feedback on this week's episode or any episode, we'd love to hear from you. Until next time, keep pushing the boundaries, taking risks, and most importantly, disrupting education.